I need to, of course, kick off with the absolute remarkable goings-on in the Epstein files. Do you follow the twists and the turns of all of this? One fella who absolutely is not coming out of this well, and that, ladies and gents, is me putting it mildly, is Peter Mandelson. Now, earlier on in the Commons, Darren Jones, he was speaking out about this. Let's just take a listen.
Peter Mandelson must account for his actions and conduct. It is an understatement, Madam Deputy Speaker, to say that his decision to continue a close relationship with a convicted paedophile, including discussing private government business, falls far below the standards expected of any minister. His behaviour was unequivocally wrong and an insult to the women and girls who suffered. The Prime Minister believes, as does the government, that Peter Mandelson should not retain his membership of the House of Lords or use his title.
Well, yeah, that's absolutely fascinating. But if the Labour Party feels so strongly, firstly, many people would actually argue, Stuart, the fella shouldn't have been in the role in the first place, but we are where we are. If the Labour Party feels so strongly, why didn't they kick him out? Why was it for him to decide, you know what, yeah, I'll leave of my own accord?
That's an important question to ask. They certainly didn't seem to waste any time in doing that, essentially, and it didn't really give the opportunity for that to be considered. But I think it's right what the Chief Secretary of the Prime Minister has said, that Peter Mandelson should not retain his seat in the House of Lords or indeed use his title. It's no longer appropriate. And it's a real smack in the face to the victims of these heinous crimes. I think there's also future questions to answer as well on what these documents have released. I haven't seen all of them. And questions should be asked about who knew what and when, essentially. We've already had this earlier on in the year, and I think it's right that we should be clear with the public exactly what was known and when.
I'll come back to you in a second, but Zia Yusuf, your thoughts?
Well, this story with regards to Jeffrey Epstein and Peter Mandelson, I think is one of the most extraordinary political stories in my lifetime, aside from obviously the egregious and heinous criminal acts that Jeffrey Epstein committed himself. If you look at what's come out in the last 24 hours, and look, we're going through, as we speak, all of the stuff from the Justice Department, but it's clear that Peter Mandelson, and this is documented in emails that everybody can see online as we speak on the Justice Department in America's website. Number one, Peter Mandelson gave an early heads up to Jeffrey Epstein about Gordon Brown's resignation, and gave an early heads up to Jeffrey Epstein of the 500 billion euro bailout of the euro. And those are obviously market-sensitive things to a man who, by the way, obviously managed an enormous amount of money, if we can call it that. So it is clear as day, I think. I think this is open and shut stuff. I think this is market manipulation. And also, those emails betray the fact that Mandelson shared with Epstein underground tunnels and things that are protected under the Official Secrets Act. This is, I personally think this is less a case of, you know, should Peter Mandelson be in the House of Lords? But frankly, how long will his jail sentence be? I think Peter Mandelson is going to jail. And here's the most important question. Here's the most important thing. Because you just saw Darren Jones from Labour talking about, oh, you know, Peter Mandelson's going to answer for all of this. Let's not forget, Keir Starmer himself appointed Peter Mandelson not that long ago to be Britain's ambassador to the United States of America. He did so in defiance of advice from the United Kingdom's intelligence agencies. I think Keir Starmer has a serious question to answer. And personally, I think Keir Starmer needs to resign.
What do you say back to that, Stuart?
I mean, we have it's a very rare case that Britain appoints political appointees as ambassadors. And it's a different set of circumstances in which they are selected to that of career diplomats. And I think in that case, risks and the upsides of appointing a political appointee are often considered. I'm not sure, I don't know the whole facts of the case about the particular security aspects about what the intelligence services said. But broadly speaking, I think this government has generally followed security services advice in most matters. So it'd be quite surprising to learn that they would have contravened it directly in this case.
There's nothing more important than keeping you and your loved ones safe online. With so many VPN options available, choosing the right one can be pretty daunting. And with their Valentine's Day sale, this video's sponsor, ExpressVPN, is making the choice easier for GB News viewers. It's the easiest way to stay safe online, protect your money, and save big for less than £2 a month. Click the link in the video's description or scan the QR code today.
Peter, one of my viewers, says, Michelle, every single person and the kitchen sink, it feels like, knew that Mandelson wasn't right for the UK ambassador role to the US. Are you telling me that the only person that didn't seem to know this was Keir Starmer? He says, pull the other one. We don't believe it for a second. It feels like a job for the boys. Lots of people getting in touch and saying, Paul, how on earth does anyone even thought that he was a suitable candidate for this role is absolutely mind-blowing. He says Peter Mandelson is a traitor and he should be treated as such. And again, he puts the blame squarely onto Keir Starmer. Tony, again, there is a question being asked here, Stuart. If so many people could sense that Peter Mandelson was not the right man for the job, and you will say, oh, I don't really know all the details, but, you know, he knew about, Keir Starmer will have known about his links to Epstein and all the rest of it that continued way beyond the accusations and the guilt of him doing wrong with younger girls and all the rest of it. The question will be, perhaps on the minds of some of these viewers, what did Peter Mandelson potentially have over either Keir Starmer or senior members within the Labour Party to have swung this appointment in his general direction?
I think there was a risk-benefit analysis that went on about Peter Mandelson's ability to improve diplomatic and trade relations with the United States and the information that was at hand during his appointment. And let's not forget, we did actually manage to sign an overdue trade deal with the United States, which had not happened, and that's often the purpose of political appointments. So there's the case of his competency and his ability in a political role, and also that parallel of his character, and as you say, the outline of these allegations that have been arising that we now have evidence of. Now they're in the public domain, but we didn't before, essentially. So that's sort of how things have explained. However, I do understand people's frustration with this, given that, broadly speaking, this government has been reasonably risk-averse in its appointment of certain personnel, and ordinarily this wouldn't have been the norm for its decision-making processes.
It just seems very odd. Something just doesn't seem to stack up on this one. Philip is asking, is Keir Starmer just incompetent?
I don't think incompetence in this particular case is necessarily the first finger that I would point. I would look at the accuracy of the information that he's perhaps made his decision on, and obviously a lot more new information has now come to light. But when it has come to light, it has been acted upon pretty swiftly. And I think the Prime Minister's position is quite clear that Peter Mandelson should no longer retain his seat in the House of Lords. He was removed as the ambassador.
Yeah, but he's playing catch-up, Stuart. Let's not beat around the bush. All this stuff started coming out on Friday. We've already known some of this stuff. I mean, it seems like every day becomes more and more eye-watering. He should have been pushed from your party, and he wasn't. And for many people, that's inexcusable. You don't want to what?
I wouldn't want to share a party with someone who has been made allegations of with Peter Mandelson, and I'm pleased that he no longer shares the party I do, given the fact the information.
I know, but that's because he chose to leave. So my question to you that I'm putting is, there's obviously something wrong here. Why didn't your party kick him out? Your party appears weak. Your party appears that what you're trying to do now is get in front of the criticism and go, oh, yeah, we're really tough. Look at us. We're saying he shouldn't still have his peerage.
And it's really tested the robustness of the processes of political parties in this particular case, especially for someone who's held such a high position in the Labour Party. And I think there's a serious lesson to be learned here.
Well, hold on. Keir Starmer, this is widely reported. Keir Starmer appointed Peter Mandelson as Britain's ambassador to the United States of America in defiance of advice from our intelligence agencies. That's just my opinion. It's widely reported among many reputable news outlets. And why was that? Well, now we're seeing the reason why. Not only did he continue a close friendship with somebody after it was clear that he was a paedophile, now, as a result of revelations in the last 24 hours and emails we can all see, he was engaging in giving Jeffrey Epstein information about Gordon Brown's resignation before the public knew about it, and ahead of a euro bailout that moved currencies across the globe before the public knew about it. If you believe that the buck stops with the executive, I cannot see how you cannot be calling for the leader of your party to resign today.
I just want to separate a few things out here for clarity, which was, if that was reported that the intelligence services had made that recommendation, it is a recommendation. It's for ministers, even the Prime Minister, to decide.
Correct.
As a risk-benefit analysis. And I'm
reasonably...
you're
agreeing it was Starmer's decision.
But I'm reasonably confident in saying neither you nor I know if that decision was taken by the intelligence services, their assessment. We don't know what that was based upon, the information they have. It could or could not have been related to information that has been released in the Epstein files, but you and I don't know that for a fact, because that is under their jurisdiction and not in the public domain. What has now come into the public domain is the Epstein files, but we could only surmise, and we could be very wrong to assume that those two pieces of information were the same thing.
His nickname was literally the Prince of Darkness. That's been his nickname for years, as long as I can remember. If you were interviewing for a candidate in your office and you found out that his nickname or her nickname was the Prince or Princess of Darkness, what would your reaction be?
I'd always be careful about making assumptions on other people's reputation.
This is in the public domain.
Yeah.
Everybody had seen his conduct. And again, do you or do you not believe in the buck stopping with the executive? Do you think leaders should take responsibility for their actions?
I think leaders make a lot of decisions in government at the top. And whilst I understand where you're trying to take this conversation, Zia, my outlook at the moment is
this
the
is one of the most
that we have now.
Political scandals of my lifetime. So yes, I'm taking it to what the Prime Minister knew and what he did.
I think what he's been involved in is heinous. I think you can tell sitting here today the way I feel about this. The victims of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes, it's just unspeakable what they've been put through. And his association, Peter Mandelson's association with Mr. Epstein is particularly awful. However, we are only just finding out about this information.
OK, so let me ask you this question. Today. If it was clear to you that the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, the leader of your party, did know about Peter Mandelson's connections with Jeffrey Epstein, to the degree we understand now, and he still appointed him as ambassador to America, you would call on Starmer to resign?
Hold upon. I think I would very clearly want to know if the Prime Minister knew that, but I would want to know what he knew and when, and who his advice was.
And if he did, you'd call on him.
I'd want to know the source of the advice.
Simple yes or no question.
No, it's not a simple yes or no question.
It really is. If he did know about those things, would you call on him to resign?
The most important information is about when they knew it, where, and the timing, because information becomes particularly useful as it comes in. We've only just got this today. I don't know what they knew and when, and I would want to satisfy that before answering that question.